All right, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to our apostles, a great millstone that rule with honor and with diligence. Honestly, brothers out there pushing this truth and love and sincerity to wake up the elect. Peace be to the elect and their families, those that change according to the word, calling on the names of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Time of trouble, we say, peace be unto you. May the Lord have mercy on you in these evil times that we're living in. May the Spirit continue to bless and keep you all. You know, this is just a quick, you know, a quick lesson. You know, it's just something I was thinking about earlier. You know, pretty much over here in America, they treat their war veterans like shit. You know, um, as a lot of you know, or may know, there's a lot of men that fought for this country that sleep under bridges. There's a lot of men that went to either World War II, went to war or whatever. I don't know if it's any World War One veterans alive, but a lot of men that went to World War II, probably old now, or a lot of men that went to Vietnam and all these other various wars, whether they be you know small or great. Of course, Kuwait, Iran, and all the other wars are between skirmishes, just or whatever the case may be. A lot of those men, were in a situation where they were given drugs, or they were putting, especially mainly that I know about in Vietnam. There was a lot of drugs that were introduced to certain soldiers. A lot of soldiers, they seen some hard, battle. That was some mean bush over there in Vietnam. You know, um, America pretty much got the ass handed to them. The war veterans, and mainly Jake were treated like shit. All of them were called baby killers and all of that, but Jake had the systemic oppression to deal with as well as being called a baby killer. You were being oppressed from other angles as well, man. You know, and yeah, I served in the armed forces. You know, I've been out for quite some time now. The spirit of the Lord got me out of the military to do this work. But as being a veteran, I can say that there's a lot of things that we experience, man, that you don't find help from in the so-called healthcare facilities. The VA says, oh, you get free health care, but there are stipulations on that. They don't tell you the stipulations. Like, for instance, a lot of people may know I was in a car wreck back in 2023. I went to the VA to get treated. And then when my settlement came, the VA took a huge chunk of my settlement to pay for my bill that I got from that wreck, when I was supposed to have free health care. You know, I was supposed to be able to walk in and get treated, and you know and just be able to pretty much get treated and go back home. But there are certain stipulations. you know and when they say free healthcare, don't think of it as a broad sense, because there's always stipulations. That's everything in America. They say, oh, you get this, but it's bullshit. Just like the prices on these vehicles. You go in the car, you say, yeah, this car is 13.9. you know by the end of the paperwork, you paying 26 G's. you know oh, in the military, you come back home, you can't sleep, you got PTSD. You're having panic attacks, you're having nightmares, you know, and you go to these people. A lot of people that are not mentally strong, will start having thoughts of suicide. Well, maybe I should just take myself out, So instead of doing that, their survival mechanism kicks in and say, you know what, go and get help. So they go to the VA, to get help, and they're presented with medicines that make them suicidal. They're presented with medicines. Oh, well, you go in there, you tell them, look, this happened to me. This is a personal testimony. I told them, look, I haven't been able to sleep. I'm getting 1 to 2 sleeps an hour, weeks on end. It's like I'm always tired. And like, yeah, they gave me some medicine that helped me to go to sleep, but I was waking up with headaches every day. And I was like, you know what, I can't take this shit. Like what? And I went and cursed everybody in the VA out. I said, how the fuck you gonna give me some shit, man? Well, now I can go to sleep, but I wake up with headaches every day. Now you gonna give me another fucking problem, you know? And like that started my journey to like working, like dealing with herbs. Like even when I was in the world, I started like to do my own research on herbs, but it magnified when I got in the truth, and the apostles, elders, I heard them, you know, speaking on herbs, and brothers should get into the herbs, and it like really magnified everything that I was doing. So throughout Yahweh Bashim Yahshua for the apostles and elders, for bringing that information out, because the spirit was kind of like, spirit really started to deal with me on another level, to where I can help myself, as opposed to taking this devil magic, potions, you know, thinking that you're gonna get some relief. And people were all kind of fucked up in the VA. Like you taking medicine for one thing, next thing you know, you got high ocular pressure, you got polyps on your brain, you fucked up, man. You know, and then just beyond all of that, and beyond dealing with all of that shit, these motherfuckers, they, you go and file a disability claim, because evidently, if you getting 2 hours of sleep, you can't work nowhere. Because if you're working a job where you're working with heavy equipment, or you're working on a dock somewhere, you fuck around and get killed. You'll fuck around and get killed driving to work. So oh well, you know I can't work because I don't sleep. And that's potentially dangerous. Then I have PTSD, severe PTSD. I'll fuck, if somebody say the wrong shit, I'll fuck around and fuck around. You know, some motherfucker rub you the wrong way. You got that other demon, that kill him demon. You got to deal with. You know, So you're dealing with that, and then you file a claim. It takes years. Years to get the claim across. Because you got to go through all this cross examination, like you ain't suffered and been through shit. Like people are asking you about everything that put you in the situation that you're in. Rehashing up old shit, right? So now you start having episodes again, because you gotta go back and think about the shit that put you in there in the first place. So you having fucking episodes again. That a lot of that happens, like people go in for help, and they're trying to get off of drugs and trying to straighten their lives out, but they're getting bombarded with questions. What happened to you? And they're trying to forget all this shit. So what happens? They leave there and they resort back to drugs. It's like a never ending cycle. Like, motherfucker, if I'm trying to forget this shit, why do I gotta keep telling you what the fuck happened? And who the fuck invented that system? You know? But people rather go back to the fucking drugs. People rather go back and sleep in a fucking tent, instead of you know instead of speak about that shit. Then another thing, if you do get disability and you are able to afford some type of life, you know, to a certain extent, the disability is limited. If you get disability, if you get, say for instance, You get 70 to 100%, or you get 100% disability, or 70%. Yeah, you can pay, you can kind of afford, you got a little money, but you're not really making no money like that. And then another thing, if you get disability, they tell you, look, yeah, in order for you to be 100%, you got to be unemployable unless you got your balls blown off or some shit. You know, so now they're telling you, look, you got to be unemployable, meaning that you're not able to go in and work. So now that you're getting this shitty disability money, you know, you're getting about, a little bit over minimum wage, you know, like assistant managers at McDonald's pay, right? Then you can't go if you hustle on the side and make money and they find out about it, then they could cut your shit. If you get a job and you make over the amount that you can add to the money that you're getting, which is not a lot, then they cut you off. So you can't thrive. You can't, you can't fucking, like that's fucking wicked. Like if I'm getting disability because I fought for you in your war, and I got this all this shit I'm dealing with, right? When I fought for you in your war and I got this shit I'm trying to deal with because, you know, the answer shouldn't be, well, you signed up for this. The answer should be like, well, hey, we got you, man. You got us. You did what you had to do for us. We'll do whatever we can to help you. But they'll give you all kind of fucked up medicine. Instead of doing that, they'll give you all kind of fucked up medicines that make you want to kill yourself. You know, and then a lot of people never even get disability wages. The drugs take hold. They just go to drugs because they're trying to forget shit. They're trying to be in a zonked out, you know, fucked up state of mind. Like to where they don't even know what the fuck is going on half the time. You know, so they don't never get to the point where they can get disability. They end up in the fucking drug place, on methadone some goddamn where, or on some other harsh drugs to they give you another drug to mask the drug that you're already taking. You know, and then they have all of these incentives that they have, but they only tell the white boys. They only tell the fucking hunkies, man. They only tell, look, if you go do this, it's like secretive. Yeah, if you go do this, you can get an extra $1,000. Or if you go do this, if you go do that, and then it's like a phone incentive. If you don't do it by a certain period of time, then it gets cut off and you get cut out of the incentive. So it's hush hush, it's hush hush on the shit that you can do to help yourself. But amongst Jake though, you know, so people, instead of dealing with all that, you come back from a fucking war zone, you got to deal with all this fucking paperwork. I got to go to this place to go and get this paperwork. I got to go and get this shit printed out and fill out some shit. I don't know. Then if I get take an appointment for somebody to help me fill this shit out, it could be 3-4 weeks down the road when I need help right now. It's like, and that's why people were killing themselves. That's why people end up offing themselves, man, because there's no immediate system for immediate help. There's no, you know, the shit you're dealing with. You come from a combat zone where you constantly looking to see if who's trying to kill you, and come back to society and they just throw you out in society with there's no mandatory plan to try to straighten your mind out a little bit. You just sit there for about a month waiting to go home. you know and then you file for disability because you fucked up evidently. Men, it takes longer. Women will be like, you know what, I'm fucked up, I need to go and do something. But with men, we got that, hey, I'm a man, shit, I can deal with shit. And so a lot of men, mainly Jake, they don't end up going to get the help they need, because they're like, well, I'm a man, I got to deal with shit, blase blase, this and that. They don't end up getting help that they need. So what happens? They resort to drugs. They resort to suicide. You know, they resort to living some kind of crazy life, man. You know, but but yeah, so uh, 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 um, they have all these private incentives, and then you get money. You end up eventually you get disability. You know, you can get 100% disability. It's not enough to cover for everything. Like when you spend that money, you don't got no money, so you can't get a full-time job on the side to help you because you get disability. If you can work, they figure if you can work, then you can you can go and survive on your own. So if you do get a job on the side, you can only work like 20, 30 hours, depending on, the money that you're making already. And which, if you signed up to be unemployable or whatever, they're not expecting you to work. But if you do work, you can only get so many hours. So it's oppression. It's complete oppression. You don't hardly make shit already with 100% disability. That's not even blue collar money. you know that's at the median of somebody, that's not struggling. But in this current time, that's struggling. So people resort to fucking death. And then there's no fucking way in the hell, like, I don't know how a man can go and fight for a country and survive and have PTSD and all these demons that he got to fight for the rest of his life and be poor. And not only that, how the fuck do all these entertainers get millions of dollars to go and shoot a basket in a hoop when men that have put their lives on the line for a shit country don't get shit, don't get nothing? That shows you the wickedness. And you know what, God, that's something that the Lord hates. The Lord doesn't like that, man. You know, you go put the you go you done been blown up several times. You waking like nobody when you get back from a war, which I'm a war veteran. When you get back from a war, don't nobody want to deal with your shit. They got all this, they got all these, oh, we support the troop shit stickers, bro. I get mad when I see that shit. I get mad when I see it. Usually it's another veteran that got it, or it's somebody that don't support shit. They just want to look good, because ain't no fucking support. And especially for Jake. If you a Jake vet, it's white boys killing themselves. So if you a Jake veteran, you just. But the thing is, Jake, we're used to oppression. So Jake will be don't get his shit and don't even say nothing. He just be like, yeah, I'm used to being fucked over. You know, but it's a fucked up system, man. It's a system where you should be able to, like, they got all kind of jobs where you can work remotely from home, so where you don't even have to be around people. So if being around people is a threat, that shouldn't matter. If you can get a remote job and work on the phone, they give all the remote jobs. If you got a remote job, you call in for help or customer service. It's some motherfucker in China, some goddamn where, that can't even hardly speak English. Some Hindu fuck. You can't even hardly understand this dude. You know. But yeah, man, yeah, man, like, so we're gonna give you this money, but you can't make no more money. So you're gonna be you're gonna be placed into a bracket, forced into a bracket to where you gotta fucking just hustle. You gotta do side jobs. You know to make ends meet. You gotta do cash jobs, and that's coming to an end. You know. But yeah, man, that's why the Lord fucking hates this place, man. You know. First of all, the Lord is a man of war, man. People, a motherfucker. We live in a playtime where a motherfucker can go on TikTok and throw shit on himself and become a fucking millionaire. you know. But you go and fight on a fucking battlefield and come back with all kind of shit on, like, the thing about being in war is when you over there you adjust. It's adjusting and coming back home is the fucked up part, because men are instinctively warriors when in a combat situation, but when you go from an environment like that and you come back to an environment that's civil and you're still wired, you're still looking for threats, you still, it's like you on another planet. You still, like, to this day, like, like I saw somebody get hit by a sniper through a window. To this day, I don't like when it gets dark outside to have blinds open, windows open, cracked. Like that shit. Like, I know in my mind, you know, it's not gonna be no sniper outside, but it's just a discomfort. Like, like shit. Like, I'll be like, hey, can we close this window or dim the lights or some shit? You know, it's just that's just something that it happens. It's so traumatizing that you never forget it. You know, so your body goes into fight or flight mode all the time. You know, yeah, man. But it's hard. It's hard to go and fight a war, and come back home and live in society, and then let alone a society where, okay, yeah, if you do say, what, for that first couple years you fucked up, you can't really get off the ground, because everywhere you go, you can't work around loud noises, you know, so that cuts out construction, anywhere where you got, hammering power tools, because you'll be somewhere on the floor somewhere sweating. you know that cuts out a lot. Like, I used to, like, on New Year's and 4th of July, I used to rent hotels way out in Boomfuck somewhere and pray that it wasn't a lot of fireworks going off. Like, the first 4th of July, I was laying on the fucking basement floor tweaking, tweaking, man. You know, but yeah, man. But so for all that you suffer for a country that don't even fucking like you, first of all, you suffer all of that and go through all of that for a country that hates you. If your skin is a certain color, you know, all of the things that are provided to help you, the incentives are hidden and only distributed amongst white people. You know, if you get some information, you stumble upon it, like somebody's talking about it across the room and you hear it on accident. But if you go and sit up, and even amongst Jake in the VA, you sit amongst Jake and they don't tell you the information. You know, you got to stumble upon it. But I'm gonna get this scripture. I don't want to talk too much. This is Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 26 and verse 28. It says, "There be two things that grieve my heart, and the third making me angry." It says, "A man of war that suffered poverty." Because the scriptures say there's no greater love for a man to give his life for his friends. And giving your life not always means that you got to die. If you go through a horrific life-changing experience because you stepped in to help someone, or whatever the case may be, you know that's the same thing. you know so those people that you went and given your life for, even back in the ancient times, there was people were dealing with post-traumatic stress and shit from war. you know but if that impedes on your life, if you didn't grow up in a third world country somewhere where gunshots just ain't really going off like that, and explosions, you know you're not used to that type of environment. So when you're thrusting into that type of environment, your body makes a drastic change to adapt, but your body doesn't prepare to adapt back to the before, because things have happened that are burned into your conscience. You over there, you walking over, you walking and you step over a baby arm, shit like that. Seeing people with half their torso blown off. You know, trying to pull people out of burning vehicles, and you can't, and they're just stuck. Like, like you see some wild shit, man. Wait, one time we had to walk through a soccer field full of kids that were blown into bits. Uh, uh, Fucking from the knee down with the shoe still in it. Shit like that. And people go through that and suffer that because, well, why? I chose to join the military, you know, and the people, the so-called military people, they're supposed to know, like, when you get back. By now, all the war, this place has been at fucking war since it was established. Okay, by now there should be something. Hey, look, you're going to experience this, you're going to experience that. There should be some type of protocol, but there's no protocol. You just get thrust back into society. People that don't have strong minds, that don't have the Lord with them, they end up on drugs somewhere. A lot of people OD. A lot of people jump off a fucking bridge, blow their brains out, because there's not proper systems in place to help people. And then people, leave before they left, they were doing pretty good, but they can't go back to the job that they were at because of their symptoms. you know and then if you say, look, I'm fucking homeless, I can't find work because I got PTSD, you know then, well, let us put you in a psych ward and dope you up. you know let's put you in a psych ward and fill you with drugs, and see if that helps. That doesn't help. you know you just locked up for it now. You're locked up, or you got we got people listening in on microphones, all kind of crazy shit. You just locked away some fucking where, like an animal, because you served your country. Before these motherfuckers want to say, look, we're gonna make sure all your expenses are paid. You got somewhere to stay. You're not on the street. They just brought all kind of people from other countries over here and housed them and gave them money. And it's a lot of people that fought and pretty much their minds will never be the same. They pretty much just fucked up in the head, but they don't get shit. And then when they do get something, you put a cap on it. Well, I'm gonna give you this, but you can't get a full-time job and make more money to substitute for the rising cost of shit. And then they'll say, oh, well, we're gonna give you a a payment extension for the rising cost of shit, and it's only $100 fucking. $100. That's the tax of about 10 items you buy in the grocery store. you know you buying, like, say for instance, you go and buy a meat pack somewhere. You go grocery shopping, you go, like you got a household of what, 3 to 4. Groceries is high now. You're gonna spend about monthly, probably about 5, 6, 700, right? Oh, this hundred, we're gonna give you this $100 to help you. By the time you spend 5, 6, 7, $100, that's the tax money. Oh, well, I'm not making enough. I need to go get a full-time job. If you do that, we're gonna cut you off. So it's fucked up. It says, there be two things that grieve my heart, and the third making me angry: a man of war that suffered poverty, a man of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin. The Lord prepares such a one for the sword. But it says a man of war that suffered poverty. Poverty is something that the Lord hates. And that's another reason why the Lord is going to destroy this place. Babylon, America. The Lord is going to destroy this place, man. You know, that's something that the Lord hates. You know, well, that's something that grieves his heart. You know, it's a sad case when you go into a combat zone and you killing and you probably ain't never killed nobody more than likely in your life. Next thing you know, you jump off that C-130 and you offing people. You know, the first the first 10 to 15 people you kill, you never forget that. You don't forget their faces because you gotta make a report, you know. After the gunfire goes down, people get sent in to make a report. Yeah, killed in action. That's how they know how many people you killed in action because after the gunfire, after the threat has been eliminated, they go in and have to, pretty much assess the situation. So hey, yeah, this guy right over here that's dead, I killed that guy. This person over here that was in the window that's dead, I killed that person. So you never forget, and then you fuck around and have nightmares, and these people are chasing you in your sleep, all kind of crazy shit, man. But you go through all of that, but you can't you can't get paid over the amount that we giving you because we're gonna cut you off. It's a cap on you trying to survive. So by the time you say you got a car note, you got insurance, you got to pay rent, you got a home, you got a family, you got to provide. You don't get enough. You don't really have enough money to do shit after you pay all of that. Which is complete wickedness. But if you could dunk the shit out of basketball, you can make millions. But if you went to war, you got blown up 2 times. You know, you got blown the fuck up. Fighting for your country, then you can't even get another job, and you forced into this low income bracket, which is you're not really making shit. And then every year, you go up $50, and then oh yeah, well it used to be $50, but we're gonna give you an extra 50 to supplement for the rising costs. What the fuck is that gonna do? you know but meanwhile, there's billions of dollars being spent to see if they can turn monkeys gay. See, and this is really happened under the Biden administration. They spent billions of dollars trying to see if they can turn monkeys gay. But it's homeless veterans in the street that fought for this country. That's why it's fuck this place, goddamn place, man. I'm not saying every veteran is a righteous being, but I'm saying that's something that grieves the Lord's heart, man. And that's a reason why this fucking place gotta go. There's no empathy in this goddamn place, man. Micah chapter 2 and 1 said, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Said they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. You know, so hey, that's the other aspect of it. You're going to oppress other people, and you're oppressed. You're trying to find a better way from your life, and they make it to where it's you got to go through to college, or go and debt yourself to make ends meet. You got to go and put yourself in debt first. You go to college, then people go to the military so they can avoid that. And a lot of that shit, the GI Bill is fake, is fucked up. My first time trying to apply for the GI Bill, I got denied, which I still had to take out loans. But later on down the line, I can't say that they paid a lot of that shit back, but it's still some shit I owe. You know, oh, if you go to school and try to get a trade, they'll pay for the schooling, but they won't give you shit for if you got to go to an apprenticeship program. The funding gets cut for that. Meanwhile, they're housing and paying for all kind of people they brought illegally into the country that's living better than you in some type of 5-star hotel somewhere and don't got to do shit. While men that fought and gave put their lives for this country, because if you go through a horrific event that's life changing, you don't have the same life that you had before you went through that event. So you basically giving your life for that specific event. Now, the people that you come to bat for or that you go to war for should be there for you when you get back. Like, look, I got you. Don't worry about shit. Whatever problem that you have, we got you. But people are more focused on wicked shit. This whole labs being millions of dollars being spent to see what diseases we can make stronger. You know, to see what diseases we can make stronger. The CDC, what diseases we can make stronger. Okay, we're gonna hold this in a freezing tube. You know, we're government funded to do all this shit. But the guy that's the grunt that's on the battlefield killing and maiming for this country, they get shit. And I experienced some of this scripture in Micah 2:2. It said they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, so they oppress a man and his house, and even a man and his heritage. Sometimes they want to build a military base in a certain area, and what would they do? They'll exit all the people out. They'll do what's called a cordon and search. They'll surround that area. They'll rip everybody out of their homes, and the next thing you know, the U.S. military is living in them homes while those people are dispersed. They had soldiers living in castles that were confiscated from Saddam Hussein. Okay, so you mean to tell me this dude was an enemy, right? His sons might have been enemies too, but fuck the rest of his family too. Why don't I go to the rest of his family? Hey, this is his stuff. He was an enemy. We had to take him out, but hey, you can come get his stuff. No, I actually seen with my own eyes. They had veterans and I mean soldiers in there chiseling gold out of the walls, removing the gold toilets, stealing. You know, so that's why the Lord got to do a number with this place, man. The Lord gonna do some damage, man. This is James 5:2. It said, "Your riches are corrupted, your garments are moth eaten, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it was fire. You have heaped up treasure together for the last days." It says, "Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is kept back from you by, I mean, which is of you kept back by fraud, Salakia, cried, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth." So, hey, shalom, apostle, shalom to you, brothers and sisters on the comment boards. So this guy will go for instance, America. You know, they had this thing where they stole this country from the Northern Kingdom tribes. You know, they stole this land. A lot of them are still named after Spanish words. But you say, well, we took this land from you. We're not going to give you free travel into this land, even though it was taken from you. But we're gonna make sure that we put people on the borders to arrest you if you try to come back into this land that we took from you. That's wickedness, you know. And they make profit off all of this. They send you in they send you in to fight a war. They make all kinds of profit off of that, but you don't see that profit. The profit that they get in hand. The profit that you get is from the struggling taxpayer dollar. That profit does that they make from that war doesn't go to you, but they rather increase increase the taxes on the struggling worker to pay the wages of them that they sent to war than to come out of pocket and say, you know what, even if you do even if you do pay it out of taxes, that should be the portion coming from the government as well. It says, ye have lived in pleasure on earth and been one I mean, well, I'm gonna read this James 5 and 4. It says again, it says, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. It says, ye have lived in pleasure on earth and have been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. It says, ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doeth not resist you. So, not only did you kill our people, you brought us over here, you fucking brutalized us, you know, you killed us, you fucked up the minds of the people, you know, to the point where they people willingly taught their children to be slaves, you know. And what have what these small little resistances were mediocre compared to all the damage that was done to our people. These small little uprisings were always dealt with harshly, and then the people that decided to rise up, they were killed, and then everybody else was punished for it. Yeah, well, since these people try to escape, we're gonna give you all lashes today for not stopping them. They probably didn't even see the people. Somebody, if you worked hard as fuck all day and you sleep in the bed and somebody get up and escape, you ain't got shit to do with that. But they would put hell on the regular citizen to the point where they would, like, don't they become massa advocates. Massa gonna get you if you do that. Or he gonna get all of us. And that turned people against each other. That fucked up the minds of a lot of people. The people would go and snitch. Well, hey, I'm leaving. I can't deal with this no more. I'll take my chances out there and die first. But Master gonna put hell on all of us. Then he goes snitch. It says, well, verse 7, be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waited for the precious fruit of the earth and have long patience for it until he receive the early and latter rain. It says, uh, uh, be also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. You know, so hey man, regardless of all this oppression, this shit going on, we still got to remain solid, man. We see these things, and don't believe that they're not on record from the Lord, man. The Lord is, we're taking record. We're telling the Lord about it. The Lord already has the record, but the cries of the people, at this point, is moving the Lord to speed up the death of this place. No, to speed up the destruction. You know, yeah, it is smart. To me, it's smarter to go for an apprenticeship because it's usually, It usually takes less time, you know, before you get to work. I just, I think that the college system is a joke. You get in all this debt. You go to school for 4 years. You don't end up working, and most of the time, you don't end up working in the field that you went for. If you go and become a plumber, 99% of the time, you're going to be a plumber. If you go in and become a carpenter, you know, the majority of the time you're gonna be some type of contractor, But if you go to college for psychology, you'll probably end up working at a fucking gas station somewhere, you know? But more than that, man, serving the Lord, you know, because the man's going as of the Lord. A man, how can a man understand his own way? You go to that school, the Lord might have you do something else. You just got to pray to the Lord before you decide to make any decision. Lord, let me know if I'm going the right way. You know, but to me personally, apprenticeship programs are better to me. Because you get to do, you get to pick something that you a skill that you may like. Like me, I like building stuff, and I like tearing stuff down. You know, I like demo days. You get to take out your frustration, but then when you build stuff and you see the result of the building, like it's like it's like a feeling that you get, like, damn, like, we built this, you know. But yeah, um, that's pretty much it, man. Like, like these people, man, they oppress you so bad to where the only way to get out of depression is to join the military, and then the military is fucked up. It's temporary. It's a temporary means, bro. You know, you get in the military, and I experienced a lot of racism in the military. A lot of people that couldn't even do. If you're in the military, you're supposed to. If you can't do a PT test, then you're not supposed to be ranked up. It was fucking white boys that couldn't even do 5 sit-ups, getting ranked over us, man. Getting ranked over Jake, killing the PT. Jake come in drunk and kill the PT test. You know, but he don't never get put in no position where he can rank up. He a PFC or a specialist his whole career in the military. No, especially in the reserves. The reserve units. You know, they're gonna put the white boy over you. In the majority of the cases, the white boy gonna be over you. You know, I experienced it with my own eyes. Like this dude, me and him was getting picked to be ranked up, and I'm smashing my PT test, my run, my push up, sit ups, you know, pull ups or whatever may have you, and this dude couldn't even do couldn't even do 10 sit ups and got ranked over me. So I lost all respect of the military then. You know, but yeah, man. So pretty much, man, this whole place is a goddamn joke. You know, may Yahweh Shemi Shai come and destroy this place, man. At the end of the day, this place needs to be fucking destroyed. That's the only answer. Pray that the Lord destroy this place soon, man. You know, pray that we get the kingdom soon, man. You know, but with that, I'm gonna give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shemi Shai, Bashim Kakodash, Daban Sa apostles, honestly brothers out there pushing the word. Shalom.